Right now, about the coronavirus, we have 323 positive cases, 47 deaths. You and I have talked about this in previous weeks. It seems to have plateaued. It is somewhat spiking in the state of Massachusetts, and nearby Somerville is holding off on going into phase 3. They are sticking with phase 2. They're putting the brakes on phase 3, at least for the next 2 weeks. Is that under consideration in Arlington, or are we still business as usual? Or are we still standing pretty well?
Well, I guess I'll tell you what I said to our health director today. I said, if you're not having this conversation already, I think you should start talking with the team to prepare yourself for the governor rolling back to phase 2. So I guess if that elucidates how we're thinking about it, I'm not necessarily poised to advise that we independently go back to phase 2 because I don't think we're on an island. But it does seem like the data statewide is pointing towards that. I don't know what the governor's thought process is or what conversations he's having, but you'd have to think if these numbers continue the way they are, that we're going to have to think about pausing or rolling back a phase.
It's very strange because in March, I guess in early March, I think a lot of people thought, well, it'll be back to normal by July or August. We are nowhere near that. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. So, ballpark figure, what do you think the chances are of possibly rolling back to phase 2 at this particular point, given the current numbers?
I mean, it would seem like even odds, right? I mean, we've gone from what I think was a statewide positive rate of 1.4 back up to over 2. So, we're inching right back up into one of the states with the highest, I think the steepest increases. I think it might have been the Times or the Washington Post over the weekend put Massachusetts in the top 12 in terms of new cases. So, I mean, I don't think any of us want to go in that direction. It would be great if we could sort of keep the plateau right where it is, start to look towards the fall, and hopefully a vaccine sometime in the midwinter. But again, the numbers aren't trending that way. So, yeah, I mean, hard for me to say, anything different than even odds, but I'm not feeling bullish on progressing to phase 4. I mean, I think it's probably more likely that we either tread water or move back than advance.
Yeah, it just seems like 2020 is, for most of the year anyway, it's going to be one of those where people have to just isolate and really, really be careful because those numbers spiked out of nowhere, really. So it's set here. So we got to do what we got to do. Moving on to other things. The school committee met last week. There are very concerned parents, obviously, students, staff, and they heard some of the statements made by teachers, parents. A lot of people are concerned about the kids getting back to school. It seems as though going back to school full-time in class is really, at this point, with 4 weeks to go before the school year starts, off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the superintendent or the school committee, but it does seem like that is true, that a full return K through 12 does not appear to be a viable option at this point.
How about hybrid, or is it, I guess, hybrid or maybe even virtual to start out the school year like they did in the spring?
Well, I think that's the balance the superintendent and her team are working on right now. I know they're going to be getting their final recommendations to the school committee in the next week for the school committee to make some final decisions. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the balance, right? Do you start hybrid? Do you start virtual? I know as more and more districts around us that have started to announce a full virtual start, which I'm imagining is adding pressure for what what Superintendent Bodie is feeling and what her leadership team is feeling. But unfortunately, I think it's just I don't want to say it's a lose-lose, but it's a no-win situation where if you start a hybrid, you might make some folks happier, but you're putting yourself in a position where if numbers continue to go up, you might have to move back to a fully remote. So I don't want to say that I don't necessarily know that I have an opinion on it, other than that it's a very difficult job for the superintendent, her team, and the school committee. It's a difficult job that they're doing, and it's difficult for parents too. I mean, I'm a parent of young children myself, and there's, short of going back to school full time, the options don't look appetizing. But you go back to school full time, and you're certainly, I would say, significantly heightening the risk of the health of your children or yourself if they're going back full time, given what we know about the transmission of the disease. So, more to come in the next week, but a challenging situation for all parties, no matter how you shape it up.
I think the mindset was that things were going to be better. The numbers were going to be lower. We're getting out of this. That big wave went by us, but it's not over anywhere close to the end. So It's just been discouraging that those numbers have gone up, and that's
Yeah.
very concerning for everybody. You had a community conversation which drew a lot of attention on set for August the 4th, and it was going to be Lieutenant Rick Pedrini apologizing to the residents of Arlington, whoever wanted to hear it, for words that he had published nearly 2 years ago now. That was postponed. Why was it postponed?
I'd say the number one reason was the consultant that we've been working with, Alenza Michelle. She's a racial equity consultant that we've been working with since the end of 2019. And she's created a connection with the community and helping to advise us via that connection with the community, and felt like with the visions report being reported last week and some things we were trying to put in place for the Pedrini conversation not having been put in place by when, I think it was like around Wednesday last week, we just decided that this is going to be a hard conversation no matter how we do it. Let's make sure we do it absolutely right. Let's postpone, give ourselves another 30 days or so, put it together the way we should put it together. And I came into the conversation not wanting to postpone because I wanted to get this conversation underway. But after listening to her, talking with Jill Harvey, our DEI coordinator, with Christine Margiano, the Director of Health and Human Services, the leadership of the Human Rights Commission, we all had our individual opinions, but collectively agreed postponing a little bit longer, making sure we get it right, and to really make sure we get as many voices from the community involved as possible was worth the extra few days.
I'm sure there were many people who were looking forward to this and were discouraged by the fact that it's been postponed. Have you gotten any backlash for postponing this?
No, in fact, I'd been hearing from folks asking us to postpone it until we were able to incorporate more community voices. So I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think my sense was there was more relief that we postponed to better build in community voices as opposed to disappointment. But again, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
And you don't have a rescheduling date. You said about 30 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get the school year started one way or the other, as we just talked about, and see how some things shape up. But yeah, we're looking at not delaying it much longer than a month or so.
I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. Last question. 2020 has been so kind to us. Now the state has detected West Nile virus in mosquitoes in Arlington. The hits just keep on coming, Adam. What are you hearing from health officials about this now?
Well, interestingly enough, health officials at the state level and locally have been saying this was going to be a bad West Nile year since probably back in April. So whatever, I'm not exactly sure what the indicators are they look at to know so far in advance, but I think it has to do with mosquito breeding sort of conditions. And mosquito breeding conditions have been good this year with a combination of heat and water available for them to breed. And here it is, early August, and we've already found our first West Nile positive mosquito in Arlington. So, I think we've already sent out notice about precautions that we all should be taking to protect ourselves from it. And it's, like you said, it's just another challenge for us to face, making sure that we have mosquito repellent on, not being out at the hours where we shouldn't be out to be subject to mosquitoes. And I don't know what more to say than, the hits just keep on coming in 2020.
Got less than 5 months to go in 2020. We're going to get through this. They did, I think it's called larvicide. They performed a larvicide operation in June, and they're going to be doing it in the next few weeks too, which obviously gets the mosquitoes in the larval stage before the danger occurs.
Yes.
So that'll be happening, I guess, in August?
Yeah, we're part of a regional mosquito control project that we contribute funds to, and they do larvicide work. Again, as you said, to try to kill the mosquitoes before they're hatched or before they're born. And then I know we also do some work with our DPW cooperating with public health to do some further larvicide work. So it's not an absolute, right? It's not eliminating all mosquitoes, but it does reduce the threat as best possible.
All right. Well, Arlington has yet to see a murder hornet. Let's keep them at bay. So
I know they feel like they disappeared. I know there's been a lot of Twitter jokes about that like there was a big announcement of murder hornets and then it went away.
Yeah, they found one in the West Coast, and I'm thinking, selfishly, I'm thinking, good, stay out there, just do what you have to do. But we can do without it. We're dealing with a lot of problems on our own.
Yes, I don't need a murder hornet.
No, it's exactly. Nobody needs a murder hornet in their life.
No.
Adam, thanks as always. Have a great week, and we'll be talking to you next week. Be safe.
Great. You too. Thank you, Jeff.